That night, the carriage carrying Jun-ho rolled up to Madame Butterfly's hidden establishment. Nestled between silent hills and veiled by trees, the lavish courtesan house was bathed in soft candlelight and exotic music, laughter and murmurs spilling out from its open windows. As Jun-ho stepped out of the carriage, his heart pounded against his ribs. The air was thick with the scent of incense and rose oil. Tae-jin gave his shoulder a reassuring squeeze, while Min-suk adjusted the shawl over his arms. "You've got this," Tae-jin said gruffly. "Just remember, you're not Jun-ho tonight." Madame Butterfly, the owner of the establishment, appeared at the top of the steps with his signature extravagance, his hair piled high, adorned with feathers and gold pins, his robe dragging behind him like a train. His painted lips curled into an amused smirk the moment his eyes landed on Jun-ho. "So this is your little phoenix," he drawled, eyes running down Jun-ho's figure. "You said he was pretty, but I didn't expect a living painting." He turned to Jun-ho with narrowed eyes. "Listen carefully, sweetheart. This isn't a game. You're here to do what you need to do, and then leave. Don't drag attention. Don't start drama." "I won't," Jun-ho said, voice steady despite the fluttering in his stomach. Madame Butterfly gave a tight nod, but just as he turned, a young courtesan brushed past the beaded curtains behind him and strode over in a storm of perfume and indignation. "Madam, am I not seeing Jin-moo tonight?" he asked, eyes flashing. "Why is someone else?" "Hush, Baek-rin," he cut him off with a fan snap. "Tonight is special. It's just for tonight. You'll have him back before your lips miss his taste." He leaned closer, tapping his cheek. "Go entertain someone else with loose coin." Reluctantly, the courtesan turned, shooting a glance at Jun-ho, full of suspicion and jealousy. Jun-ho kept his gaze cool and indifferent. Inside the main hall, music played from a distant zither. Courtesans moved about like shadows in silk, laughing lightly, pouring wine into golden cups, trailing fingers across shoulders. The scent of spiced meat and wine hung in the air. Min-suk discreetly pointed toward a shadowed booth near the far wall. "There he is, be careful brother," he murmured. Jin-moo sat reclined on plush cushions, one leg crossed, swirling wine in his cup. His expression was bored and irritated, as if the world owed him entertainment and hadn't yet delivered. Jun-ho's fingers brushed over the small pouch of aphrodisiac hidden within the folds of his robe. He inhaled, channeling every lesson Ji-yeon had drilled into him: grace, mystery, confidence. He moved across the room with slow, measured steps, ignoring the stares that followed. His heels tapped softly, his silk robe trailing behind him like mist. He approached the booth with a smile curved just right, not too eager, not too shy. Jin-moo looked up, and for a brief second, his face registered surprise. Then curiosity. Jun-ho bowed slightly, then straightened, eyes holding Jin-moo's with boldness and a hint of a smirk. "May I sit with you, my lord?" he asked, voice smooth and lilting. "You look far too handsome to be drinking alone." Jin-moo chuckled, tipping his head with interest. "Well now, someone finally worth my time." Jun-ho smiled and slipped into the seat beside him. The trap was set. "You're new," Jin-moo said after a beat, voice slow and assessing as he sipped his wine. "Never seen you here before." Jun-ho gave a nervous little laugh, tucking a loose strand of hair behind his ear. "That's because I am," he said softly, glancing down at his hands in mock shyness. "Tonight's my first night." Jin-moo arched a brow. "First night?" His skepticism lingered. "I wasn't supposed to work today," Jun-ho continued with a delicate pout. "But Madame Butterfly said a special guest was coming, and, well, I didn't want to disappoint." Jin-moo's ego inflated exactly how Jun-ho hoped it would. He leaned back, smiling like a man who had just been crowned emperor. "Special, am I?" Jun-ho giggled and slowly shifted closer, placing a gentle hand on Jin-moo's shoulder. "When I walked in and saw you sitting here, I don't know." His voice lowered to a whisper, trembling slightly for effect. Something about you made me feel safe. Jin-moo, thoroughly flattered, let out a loud laugh. Safe? Around me? I have that kind of ambience. Jun-ho looked up at him with wide, shimmering eyes. Yes. You feel warm. He bit his lip shyly. I'm still shaking a little, though. I'm so nervous. Well, you shouldn't be, Jin-moo said smugly, leaning in and wrapping an arm around Jun-ho's waist, pulling him a little closer. Stick with me, and you'll be fine. I take care of the ones I like. Jun-ho smiled and glanced at the small tray beside them. Would you drink with me, my lord? To celebrate meeting each other. Jin-moo raised his cup. Pour away. As the night went on, Jun-ho kept the conversation light at first, flattering Jin-moo's clothes, his taste in wine, the way he carried himself. With each pour, he slipped in little touches, brushing his fingers against Jin-moo's hand, laughing at his jokes like they were the cleverest things in the world. Soon, Jin-moo was speaking more freely, the wine loosening his tongue. His voice dropped as he leaned closer, eyes slightly hazy. My wife's a witch, he muttered. Cold. Nagging. And her older brother, Jin-suk, is an arrogant prick. Always judging me like I'm beneath him. Oh no, Jun-ho said, gasping slightly, resting a hand on his chest. That sounds so painful. Jin-moo sniffed, suddenly looking genuinely emotional. You don't know the half of it. I should have been someone bigger. Stronger. I was meant to be great. He hiccuped slightly, his breath reeking of wine. And now I'm stuck with this life. A loveless wife and a house full of judgment. Jun-ho slowly reached into his sleeve and discreetly tipped a few drops of the aphrodisiac into Jin-moo's wine cup while he was mid-rant. He stirred it gently, then offered it to him with a sweet smile. Jin-moo took the cup and downed it in one long gulp. Within moments, his already flushed face turned a deeper shade of red. His breathing grew heavier, his eyes glassier. He licked his lips slowly and looked at Jun-ho with sudden hunger. You're really something else, he slurred. What's your name again? Jini, Jun-ho lied smoothly, fluttering his lashes. But, you can call me anything you want. He slipped his hand into Jin-moo's and stood up, gently pulling him from his seat. Come with me, he asked, his voice sultry. We can go somewhere quieter, just the two of us. Jin-moo followed like a moth to flame, entranced by the heat now simmering through his body. Inside the candlelit room, Jun-ho led him to the bed but didn't let him get too close just yet. He turned to face him, tilting his head with a teasing smile. I'll give you what you want, he said, but only if you give me something first. Jin-moo blinked at him, sluggish and eager. Anything. Jun-ho perched delicately beside Jin-moo, watching as the older man slouched lazily, shirt loosened, face flushed with alcohol and aphrodisiac-induced heat. The man was like clay now, warm, pliable, and ready to be molded. You know, Jun-ho purred, his voice sultry yet coaxing, you said earlier you hated your wife and her brother, why is that? Jin-moo scoffed loudly and waved his cup, spilling some wine on the floor. Hate is too small a word. I loathe them, he said with a slur. They treat me like a damned puppet. A beautiful decoration they can use and display. I never wanted to marry that old hag. Jun-ho raised an eyebrow, leaning in with feigned curiosity. Your wife. She's older than me by nearly 10 years, Jin-moo muttered. When we met, I was poor, but handsome, and she was desperate. She offered me money, land, status. All I had to do was marry her and play the role of doting husband. It seemed like a fair trade back then. Jun-ho touched his arm gently, urging him on. But she turned out to be mad. Possessive. Jin-moo spat. She gave me everything, yes. But it was like I sold my soul. She knew I was gay from the start. I never hid that. And yet, she forbade me to enjoy myself, to live as I am. She controls me. Watches me. Threatens me. There was a bitterness in his voice now, trembling on the edge of tears or rage. She and that cold-blooded brother of hers. Always judging. Always watching me with those disapproving eyes. I'd give anything to see them both disappear. Jun-ho looked down at Jin-moo's cup, his expression unreadable. You said you know something that could destroy them. What is it? Jin-moo's lips curled into a drunk, dangerous smile. Oh, I know a lot. Enough to turn this kingdom upside down. Jun-ho tilted his head coyly. Will you tell me? Jin-moo chuckled. Only if you kiss me first. Jun-ho stilled. A flicker of hesitation passed across his eyes, but he leaned in slowly, his lips hovering over Jin-moo's. Tell me first, he whispered, and I'll make it worth your while. Jin-moo stared into his eyes, drunk, desperate, and swayed by the seductive promise. Fine, he mumbled. Jin-suk, he's running a hidden trade. A kidnapping ring. He abducts people, young, healthy ones, and sells them to the Yin Empire. Slaves, servants, soldiers, concubines. All in exchange for gold and influence. Jun-ho's heart skipped. Where is this happening? There's a secret den, Jin-moo said, lowering his voice instinctively. It's beneath the old granary warehouse outside the second east wall of the city. No one goes there anymore. He dug tunnels underneath, labyrinths. Hidden chambers, cells, passageways that connect to the river. Jun-ho's breath hitched at the revelation. He had it. This was it. He smiled gently, nodding. You've been such a good boy tonight. He poured one last drink, laced with a powerful sleeping draught. Here. One more, just for us. Jin-moo took it greedily and downed it. Within seconds, his eyes began to droop and he slumped forward with a content sigh. Jun-ho changed, his face slipping from charming courtesan to razor-focused operative. He stepped carefully over the sleeping man, tucked his own robe tighter, and quietly slipped out the door. Waiting outside in the shadows, Min-suk and Tae-jin straightened the moment they saw him. Well? Min-suk whispered. Jun-ho nodded, breathless but composed. We got it. He spilled everything. The den's under an abandoned granary outside the second east wall, hidden tunnels, secret chambers, everything. Min-suk grinned and clapped a hand on his shoulder. You really pulled it off. Madame Butterfly met them at the edge of the corridor, fanning himself lazily. I trust you didn't bring any mess to my establishment. None, Jun-ho promised. He'll be out till morning. Madame Butterfly smirked, half impressed. Then we never had this conversation. Farewell, darlings. The trio bowed quickly in thanks and headed for the carriage. As the moon hung high above, Jun-ho leaned back against the seat, the tension in his shoulders finally starting to release. He had done it. They were one step closer to taking down Jin-suk. That evening, Jun-ho stood before Kyung-hoon and Ji-yeon, recounting every detail Jin-moo had drunkenly confessed. He ended his report with a small breath, unsure of their reaction. Kyung-hoon, usually composed and guarded, stepped forward and, without warning, wrapped Jun-ho in a firm, grateful hug. Thank you, he said sincerely, surprising everyone in the room, especially Ji-yeon, whose eyes widened. Jun-ho blinked, stunned, unsure how to react. I didn't expect that. You risked a lot to get this. And you did it for us, Kyung-hoon said, pulling back. I owe you. With no time to spare, Kyung-hoon turned sharply to Min-suk. Gather only the men we trust. We move now, tonight. If Jin-suk gets wind of this and clears out the place, we lose everything. Ji-yeon, already halfway to the door, called out, I'm coming with you. Kyung-hoon paused. No. It'll be dangerous. We don't know what we'll find down there. You've been training me for months, Ji-yun argued, voice firm. What was all that for if I can't stand beside you when it matters? I'm not the same person I was when I entered the palace, Kyung-hoon. Kyung-hoon stared at him, the fire in Ji-yun's eyes both terrifying and beautiful. There was no winning this. He sighed, tension tugging at the corner of his jaw. You stay close to me. Okay. Ji-yun nodded. Deal. Jun-ho, Sun-hee, stay here and alert the court if we don't return by sunrise, Kyung-hoon ordered as they prepared to leave. Night deepened into a shadowy hush as they arrived at the abandoned granary. The air was thick with decay and secrecy. Min-suk led the way, his sword drawn, pushing aside thick brush to reveal a hidden entrance beneath a rotting trapdoor. Below, dim torches flickered against cold stone walls. The stench of sweat, rot, and fear filled the underground tunnels. Guards appeared almost immediately, armed and alert. But Kyung-hoon, Tae-jin, Min-suk, and Ji-yun were ready. Kyung-hoon fought with cold precision, slicing through opponents like water through silk. Ji-yun, though still raw, moved with speed and cunning, ducking blades, striking back, covering Kyung-hoon's blind spots. The months of brutal training showed. When they cleared out the guards, together, they made their way deeper, finally reaching a massive chamber where dozens of people, men, women, even children, were crammed into cages like animals. The moment they saw the soldiers, terror surged, but then Ji-yun stepped forward. We're here to help you, he called. You're safe now. The fear slowly gave way to disbelief, then gratitude. The captives reached out through the bars as Min-suk and others broke open the locks. Cries of relief, sobbing, and whispers of thanks echoed in the chamber. A woman grabbed Ji-yun's arm. Thank you. Thank you. I thought we were going to die here. There's no time, Kyung-hoon said urgently, eyes scanning the space. Jin-suk probably knows by now. We need to move them out before reinforcements come. Ji-yun nodded, helping a limping man to his feet. Let's get them out of here. As they guided the freed captives through the underground tunnels, the weight of the moment pressed on Kyung-hoon. For the first time, they had struck a real blow against Jin-suk. But he knew, their job was far from over. That night, a bloodied guard stumbled through the quiet corridors of Jin-suk's private estate. He burst into the drawing room, gasping for breath, blood oozing from a cut on his brow. My lord, the den, it's gone. They raided it, Kyung-hoon and his men, they destroyed everything and took the tributes. Jin-suk froze mid-step. The wine cup in his hand shattered as it slipped through his fingers and hit the ground. What, did you just say? The guard collapsed to his knees. The prisoners were freed. We tried to hold them off, but, there were too many. Kyung-hoon killed everyone. I managed to escape. Jin-suk's entire frame stiffened, his mind racing. How did he? That place was a ghost. Buried. Hidden. No one knew. No one was supposed to know. But reality didn't wait for his confusion. His first instinct was survival. He turned and barked, "Prepare my horse. We leave immediately." The door slammed open before he could take another step. A dozen armed guards stepped aside as Kyung-hoon stepped forward, flanked by Ji-yun, Tae-jin and Min-suk, their presence filling the room like a thunderclap. Kyung-hoon's eyes glinted with cold fury. Going somewhere? He asked smoothly. Jin-suk blinked, stunned. He hadn't expected them to come straight to his doorstep. You dare, he said, his voice low, venomous. I dared the moment you threatened Ji-yun, Kyung-hoon replied, voice sharp as a blade. You thought you could blackmail me, run a human trafficking ring under my nose, and destroy innocent lives. That ends now. Now, you will realize that I am not my father. Jin-suk glanced around, calculating. But this wasn't a negotiation. His eyes settled on Ji-yoon as Kyung-hoon raised a hand, and the guards surrounded Jin-suk. As they bound his hands, he smirked, unfazed. You think this is the end? You've set fire to a nest of hornets, boy. Be ready when they sting. They dragged him away, but the weight of his words clung to the air like fog. Ji-yoon stood still for a moment, troubled. This doesn't feel like victory, he murmured to Kyung-hoon. Kyung-hoon's brows furrowed. What do you mean? I don't know, Ji-yoon said quietly, watching as Jin-suk was pulled away. Something's coming. I can feel it. Miles away, the injured guard galloped in a deserted mountain road. His horse arrived in front of a modest house. He ignored the guards, shoving them aside, his legs trembling as he stumbled inside. A man sat, surrounded by shadows. His eyes snapped open at the noise. Commander, forgive me, but the tribute, the guard dropped to his knees, panting. Jin-suk has been arrested. The Hwaiyan king destroyed the den. For a moment, silence. Then, the man's lips curled into a slow, terrifying smile. He rose, clad in dark iron armor. I will inform the emperor, he said, his voice cold and smooth. The time for games is over. Ready the Hellfire Battalion. If they will not send us what we ask, we will take the Hwaiyan kingdom by force. His voice echoed through the stone hall. No more shadows. Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe to the channel for more episodes of The Prince Bride, which will be ending soon.